we can critique, we can criticize these athletes, but given the fact that you do represent the Olympia and the Olympia brand in some fashion, there's been a lot of trash talking going on recently in the bodybuilding industry. First, we had back and forth with Bob Chicherillo and Nick Walker. Now, most recently, Tim Wilkins and the things he said about Sam Solak. First, let me start with this. Freedom of speech, I 100% totally agree with. I'm not disputing that we have a right to speak our mind. But there are certain situations and in certain environments, you don't say certain things, you shouldn't say certain things, and there can be repercussions. Now, with Bob Chicherillo, the first thing he said about Nick Walker, it was in, I think it was on the with Jay Cutler, on the Cutler cast, he said, Nick Walker will never win the Mr. Olympia. Then he went on to say that Nick Walker has an age frame. Nick Walker's response was, who the fuck is Bob? Then Bob responded, I'll tell you who the fuck I am. I'm the one who's going to be calling you for 8th place at the Olympia, which is impossible. They don't call 8th place at the finals. It's 1st through 6th. So that's not happening. Nick doesn't seem to be affected by it. He went and capitalized it. He made a shirt. Who the fuck is Bob? And on the bottom it says 8th place. Oh, let me add in, Bob also said that Nick Walker would not have turned pro in his era. Now, Tim Wilkins, his comments about Sam Solak were a little more aggressive. He actually called him garbage for the sport. Okay, where's the problem with what they said? Now, like I said, I totally agree with freedom of speech. But, like I said, under certain circumstances, like at a job, you can't say certain things at a job. You can't post things on social media, certain things about your job, about your employer, the company you work for. There can be repercussions. People get terminated for it. Despite what Bob said, Bob claims that he's not employed by the Olympia. One way or another, he's getting paid by the Olympia, whether he is on their books as a regular employer or he's, I guess you could say, subcontracting his skills. He's announcing the Olympia. He's getting paid by the Olympia. Any way you look at it, you are employed. No ifs, ands, or buts. Tim Wilkins is also employed by the Olympia in some form. This podcast, Primetime Muscle, is part of Olympia TV and Muscle and Fitness channel. That's owned and run by the Olympia. In both cases, in Bob's case and Tim Wilkins' case, they're not doing this for free. They are getting paid. So you are employees. When you talk like this about the competitors, we say certain things about competitors. It's one thing critiquing a competitor, but certain things are really over the line when you are employed by these companies. In Bob's case, I don't think it was as drastic. I think got a little personal, Bob, when he threw in the comment, "You never turned pro in my era," kind of insinuating you were better than Nick Walker. But it wasn't that bad, but it was still inappropriate considering his position. In Tim Wilkins' case, it was really, not only was it inappropriate, there was a lot of anger in there. You would have thought that Sam Solak was his neighbor, and he walked into Tim Wilkins' yard and kicked his dog. The way Tim Wilkins reacted, the way he lashed out at Sam Solak. Once again, we all have freedom of speech. And I'm not calling for both of them to be terminated. I'm not calling for the Olympia to drop Bob Chicherillo as their MC. I'm not calling for the Olympia Muscle Fitness channel, which is run by the Olympia, to drop the primetime muscle and get rid of Tim Wilkins. But I do think they should be talked to and said, listen, we can critique, we can criticize these athletes, but given the fact that you do represent the Olympia and the Olympia brand in some fashion, there are things that you should not be saying out in the public and putting out on the social media. Plain and simple. Don't do it. When you're not receiving a paycheck from us, once again, you have freedom of speech. Speak your mind. If that's how you feel, say how you feel. But as long as you are technically an employee of the Olympia, you are representing the Olympia brand in some fashion, there should be some restraint on things that you say. Okay, you can agree or disagree with anything I've said. Either way, let me know in the comments section. This is Michael Diamond. I'd like to thank you for watching Muscle Central.